How's it going, everyone? Welcome to episode 9 of the ControllerCast. My name is Ursel. I'm joined by none other than the initiative man, Andrew Ihausen,
Yes, sir.
neckbeard
What's up?
legend, Jonathan Wood,
Excuse me.
and last but not least, the the streamer slash seducer, Parker Tedrow.
That's a very nice compliment. I'll take that all day long.
I don't like
So,
the neckbeard one.
yeah, no. So, just doing things a little bit different with this episode. Just as a disclaimer to everyone, we're actually recording this on Tuesday night, May 11th. And of course, this will go up on the 16th, I believe, which is Sunday, as usual, every Sunday. So just want to throw that out there just in case there's any earth-shattering news that happens in the next couple days or any crazy stuff why we didn't cover it in this episode because we're recording on the 11th. So let's just go ahead and, share what we've been up to the past week or so. I'll go ahead and start off. As some of you guys have seen, we went ahead and actually uploaded a supplemental episode of ControllerCast. It wasn't episode 9. This is episode 9. And it was actually over the PS5 exclusive Returnal. I went ahead and put together a more scripted, more edited video. And, I love the feedback that we're getting. We're getting a lot of good feedback with the video. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's only 20 minutes, a lot more digestible than, these podcasts, which might be, that can kind of go around for 2 hours. So definitely check it out. I think a lot of people have said they've enjoyed it. And I think you guys will enjoy it too. But besides that, in terms of my week, it's been okay. I actually just finished last night Resident Evil 7, and just to get hyped up for hyped up for Resident Evil Village. And I honestly just want to say that game is really, really good. If you have a PS5, check it out because it's on the PS Plus collection. And I would just say this: if you're someone who really wished PT became a full game, check this out, because I think unless we get Silent Hills, Resident Evil 7 is probably the closest thing we'll get to PT. And it's only like 7 or 8 hours long, so I definitely recommend people go check it out. But that's been my week. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, my week's been pretty good. It's only Tuesday, so we're cooking on a limited schedule, I guess. But not a whole lot's going on. Just working, and kind of sucks outside in Omaha. Also, you'll actually be back in Omaha this weekend, as a matter of fact. So you'll get to experience the disgustingness that you left. So other than that, not a whole lot's been going on. It's just kind of been an uneventful week so far. But John, what about you, man? The new glasses, I like them.
Yeah, they're blue light glasses because I'm an old man. They look kind of like readers, but no, I'm doing really good. This week, Casey and I got so much done for the wedding. We got our song requests in for the DJ. We got our questionnaire filled out for the photographer, and we got a lot of stuff paid for. So we're really trucking there. Other than that, I've got my bachelor party this weekend, so I'm super excited about that. Obviously, Ursul's going to be in town for that. Parker and Andrew are going to be there as well. Andrew, the best man. I'm hoping that, by the time this episode is published, I'll probably be sick and have a massive hangover. At least I hope. Maybe you guys can fill me in a little bit on that, but they've kept it a secret. I have no idea what's going to be going on. So I'm super excited for that. By the time this episode's published, it will have already happened, but I'll key you guys in on the next pod for sure. What about you, Parker?
Yeah, man. This week, pretty much like Andrew, I'm just uneventful. Just been working and just keeping up with the kind of news of the week. Just seeing what's going on around the world. There's a lot going on, but don't want to dive into that too much because it's a podcast, not too political, but we'll make sure to not bore you guys with that stuff. But otherwise, I'm just getting pumped up for John's bachelor party, getting that all planned out and ready to go. Very excited.
Can't wait.
So yeah, just playing like Fall Guys and Rocket League, even though it pisses me off It's really all I've been doing.
Still retired.
I'm really excited to get to see you guys in person again at the end of this week. I'm hyped. But as ritual dictates, we always start off the first half of each episode with current events so we can keep you all cultured. You should be thanking us for providing a service by doing that. Keeping you guys cultured. Okay, anyways, all seriousness. We're bringing you the current events, and we're going to start off with everything in the Elon Musk realm. Andrew, I know you wanted to go ahead and lead us in on this, so take it off.
Yeah, Elon Musk hosted Saturday Night Live, a national television program, mind you, that was streamed for the first time to other countries internationally. Don't really know why they picked Elon for that one. Maybe it's just because he's rich. So a little background, me and my girlfriend Jordan watch SNL pretty regularly. We have it recording on YouTube TV every week just to see how it is. Usually, it's pretty good. They got pretty good hosts and pretty good music acts. And then for some reason they invited Elon Musk, and it crashed and burned really. I don't really know what was all going on with it. So first off, he started out by claiming he was the first person with Asperger's to host SNL, which was a lie.
What?
He also just tried to spin it as I post memes and shit post on Twitter because I have Asperger's, which is completely unrelated. For some reason, he just
almost
thinks
offensive.
It's like he thinks that you can only shit post if you have some kind of disability, I guess. But none of the skits were funny. They had this awful one called Gen Z Hospital where they were talking like they were on TikTok for some reason, which doesn't work when your cast is over the age of 30. They also, in the most infamous one that has been rolling around Twitter, Nintendo of America comes down and finds, fan games of Mario and Zelda and shuts those things down pretty quick. And then they let Saturday Night Live completely make Nintendo look like a bunch of goofballs. So the main skit that he did that's been going around has been the whole mantra with March 31st and Mario dying. Apparently Elon Musk, who plays Wario, and Grimes who plays Peach, apparently Wario is on trial for killing Mario or something. And I didn't watch the whole thing. I didn't think the show was respectful enough to get my full undivided attention. But the clip I did watch, for some reason, on the one that was circulating on Twitter from SNL's Twitter feed, was Wario talking about having intercourse with Peach and then showing a picture of Luigi's penis on TV. So
what?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, you should have seen this.
Dude, I didn't see that clip. I gotta pull this up.
Whoever thought of this obviously isn't scared of a cease and desist, or even if I was Nintendo, I would probably sue them for defamation of character, if I'm being 100% honest. But yeah, just a complete crash and burn. He really didn't add anything. I don't think he's funny at all, basically because his Twitter is just memes that he rips from other people and then tweets himself. And people are like, dude, Elon Musk, the next Jerry Seinfeld, bro, or something like that. I don't know.
I hope people don't say that.
Yeah, he's really not very funny. I think he gets most of his humor from other people's memes that he steals. And the whole thing, just to kind of wrap it up, there were a lot of people on Twitter specifically who were really banking on Dogecoin spiking through the universe's ceiling, getting to $1 finally. So actually, they weren't entirely wrong. It did spike. It got up to 75 cents. And then he started giving his awful monologue. And I am not even joking when I say the line went vertical. It went straight down 20 cents in a minute and a half and just completely tanked out. So
Is
It's weird
Dogecoin
because
just
the
owned
rest
by
of the-
Elon now?
Well, the rest
Well,
of the crypto market followed.
Yeah, Dogecoin kept getting hyped up by Elon, and then he comes on the show, and it just shits its pants. I mean, it really doesn't make any sense how, like, apparently, as I've been told by various sources, is that one person owns like 30% of all Dogecoins in the world. So I guess he can
That doesn't
manipulate the market
good,
pretty
yeah.
well.
I don't get what he needs to manipulate it for. It's like the dude's net worth is like 200 billion. I guess it's a hustle, but like,
yeah,
what the hell?
I don't really know. I mean, I don't know. Anyways, SNL was a total disaster. It's probably one of the worst ones I've ever seen in my entire life, and I've been on this planet for 23 years. Just I don't know. I know people had high hopes with Dogecoin kind of taking off, and it just didn't. So
I gotta say, like, I thought this whole thing was. I thought the whole Elon Musk SNL was entertaining, but for like probably all the wrong reasons.
yes, it was awful. Who the hell comes up with this sketch where Wario's on trial for killing Mario, and he doesn't even like nail a Wario accent. He just talks like a stereotypical Italian accent. It's terrible.
I need to
and
watch
like
this.
and I mean like I'm actually like I'm an unironic like fan of Elon Musk and just how much of a meme he is, and like he's such a meme, and he's like he's like the richest man in the world, and he's just a Twitter shit poster, which is just like fucking hilarious. But like but I was hoping that he could deliver on SNL, but I felt like a lot of his just his delivery just wasn't it just like missed the mark a lot of the times, and it was just, and a lot of times he'd be talking, he'd be like flailing around and shit, and it was just like, what the hell are you doing, dude?
I think that's
The
something
dude gets
with
no sleep.
that's something that has to do with Asperger's. I think is, well, I guess I don't call it Asperger's anymore. I think it's just classified as something on the autism spectrum. But at that level, they like people like that have hard times making eye contact with like audiences when they're talking, or with even just with like people one-on-one. So I think the fidgeting is kind of related to that. So I don't think that was like a bit. I think that was part of it. But it's like he like tried to like justify his like sense of humor as like, because of his disability, he like just posts memes, I guess, or is like a complete shit poster on Twitter. I don't really get it.
I thought Elon had a PR person now. I thought like the SEC.
Oh yeah, because I remember
like
he said he was taking Tesla private when it got to 420 or something.
Yeah,
stupid.
yeah.
And the SEC was like, "Yo,
and
bro,
the
hold
SEC
on.
was
You
like,
got like
yo,
a million
you
people.
cannot say that.
You have millions of people that have invested money in your public company. You can't take it private all of a sudden." Anyways, the Dogecoin really crashed. I don't really know what people expected. I don't know why people expect it to do good. Not this might be a freezing cold take someday. Don't care. I don't think Dogecoin will be utilized well. But however, as Parker is going to go into, they are being used in transactions soon. So Parker, would you fill us in on the Dogecoin transaction market?
Speaking of the freaky deaky Elon Musk, okay. He actually tweeted earlier, all right? He put a poll up saying, "Do you want Tesla to accept Doge?" And there were 3,650,195 people that voted in this poll. 3.6 million. And 77% said yes to this. So well over 2 million people want Tesla to accept Dogecoin.
These are like burner accounts on Twitter or what?
I don't know.
Where did they get this poll from?
It was a Twitter poll, I think.
Yeah, it has 3.6 million. That's insane. But yeah, like just imagine being able to like put $1,000 in Doge, right? Like if you put 1,000 at the start and like now you are stacked on Doge.
Is Blake gonna buy you dinner?
He should.
I think he owes you one. Just like as a.
He literally made like 5,000 off of it. It's insane. But there's definitely. But imagine having this whole pot full of Doge, and like being able to just buy a car with it without having to take anything out of your bank account. Like imagine being able to just buy a car with like $1,000. Like that would be super awesome.
See,
like being,
can I say something? I mean,
yeah,
my biggest thing with this is
It's
Elon Musk
volatile.
has already been busted by the SEC. And I feel like, I mean, crypto's not backed, as far as I know, by the SEC. So I think that this is not a good idea. Like, he's going to get.
I don't know about it, man.
He has an advisor that's supposed to be supporting him in like decisions like this in his PR. And apparently she's nowhere to be found at the moment. I don't get it, but that is insane.
How do you put Doge on a financial statement? Like if they start buying Teslas with them, like how do you put down a financial statement?
Dude, I am a finance major. I studied that in college, and I'm going to make a prediction that Dogecoin is not going to amount to anything. And it's not based off of anything. But in the same regard, to be fair, the US dollar isn't based off of anything either. So it's really no different. It's just the acceptance of it. And the more widely accepted it is, the more
how widespread of use does like Bitcoin get?
It gets enough use.
Like I know in the dark web and stuff. I know in like the dark web.
It's a supply and demand thing. Yeah. So
See,
Bitcoin is actually used, and that's why it has value. And the fact that there's not much of it and it's not easily obtainable, that is what gives it value in comparison to all these other cryptos, because Doge is just, it's arbitrary. It doesn't exist. It's nothing.
Like, here's the problem with, the thing, I get what Dogecoin is. Like, I don't need anybody to like really explain it to me to understand it. But like, say Tesla sells like, I don't know, like 300,000 Bitcoins worth of Teslas. Like, so like 300,000 at like 56,000 per Bitcoin is, a ton. I'm not going to do the math in my head. But what if it like tanks to like 25K? Then you've like really made half that profit that you thought you did, because it's so like the dollar, like compared to everything else, is like not very fluid, right? Like it changes very minimally like throughout the year. Right. But like cryptocurrencies go like up and down fluid and all around. So like say you like buy a Tesla with 1 Bitcoin now, and then the value of Bitcoin goes down. I mean, you really didn't pay that much for it. Like, I mean, say for like hypothetical reasons, it goes from like 56,000 per Bitcoin to like 20. You paid 20,000 for a Tesla, like a $56,000 Tesla you got for $20,000 basically.
So and usually revenue isn't recognized the day of sale.
Yeah, so you sell it, like say at the start of the quarter you sell it, and then by the end of the quarter, like a Bitcoin's worth half of what it was worth when you sold it. Like that just jacks your. I don't understand why something so fluid would be like used in a professional setting like that, like a corporate setting.
It's like I could actually explain it, but it would take way too long.
Like it works good like person to person, but like I feel like going on somebody who has to report to the SEC and like all those agencies and stuff, like has to have like official financial reports for investors. I feel like that's a huge issue.
Yeah, it's a bad business move, because like if Dogecoin just tanks and like it's never worth anything again, and there's all these people that bought Teslas with Dogecoins, then Tesla's fucking screwed as a company. Like they're going down the shitter real fast, and that would halt the progress of electric cars, which is not what we need right now for sure. So
honestly,
I wouldn't even go that far. I just think that the biggest worry would be a penalty from the SEC. That's my.
And like, the more crypto keeps developing, the more it just like keeps confusing me. Like now NFTs are a thing, and I think just from what I know about NFTs sound like the dumbest fucking shit. Like I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but and it blows my mind that it's even a concept. But anyways, did anyone else want to talk about this anymore? Or
I think we've announced our business degrees all right here.
we've
Just-
all flexed our business degrees a little bit.
Now let's talk about some actual like media stuff. Arsenal,
Yeah.
let's move to you.
Yeah. So I have a bunch of different stories. I'm actually gonna flip the order around and save the bigger one for last. So there's been, a lot of indirect, pretty direct hints at this point by EA that a new Battlefield is coming out this year. I am actually pretty excited for this from what I've gathered, like from leaks and stuff like that, that it's going to be like a modern day Battlefield again, compared to their more previous entries where Battlefield 5 was World War II, and Battlefield 1 was World War One. And I'm pretty excited for this to come out. Like I wasn't, I was a huge fan of like Battlefield 3 era, Battlefield 4 era. I know you guys also have some history with the games, and I also just want to say, I think if this game is modern day and coming out, and as the rumors are going that Call of Duty is coming out and is going to be World War II, I think there's a good chance Battlefields might take the crown again this year. But John, John, I'll pass it to you. Like, what do you think about, I guess, what's your experience with Battlefield? Are you excited for this new one? Tell us about it.
Well, I can tell you this, Cold War is boring. So, I mean, after
like
getting Call of Duty, I like the zombies, but I feel like the multiplayer experience just isn't there. And especially with games like going back to even Battlefield 3, I played that on PS3 and I had so much fun with it. Like, I feel like I put more hours into that than most other Call of Duties, even besides like Black Ops 1. So I think that if is it EA?
Yeah.
If EA does something really good and doesn't shit the bed like they usually do with releases, I think they've got a really good shot with this one. And I've heard that it's going to be like legitimately a next gen game. Like they're really aiming to make this a good visual experience. And I remember, when Battlefield 4 came out, the map where the whole skyscraper could fall.
Yeah.
Dude, I hope they take that same energy into Battlefield 6. But on a bigger level. And they definitely can with like the hardware that's out nowadays. Easily. So I'm really excited to pick this up. Obviously, I only have a PS4 right now, so if I get a PS5 anytime in the near future, which I probably will, I'm aiming to probably sometime after the wedding. But once I get that, dude, I'll be on that Battlefield 6 hype for sure. But what do you think, Parker? Are you going to pick up Battlefield 6?
So personally, I've tried Battlefield 4 and Battlefield it was like Battlefield 2, I think, but I just never been able to get into these games because the style of Battlefield is just not how I play shooter games. Like the maps are just far too big. Like feels like they're 5 square miles and you have to it takes 20 minutes to run across the map. So basically everybody's just camping and sniping. It's just not how I play. I like to be aggressive in those kinds of shooter games, so I just get super bored playing Battlefield. Like I just get sleepy, dude. But yeah, that's probably why I'm not gonna pick up Battlefield 6. I just never been able to get in the game. I'm more into like Call of Duty, like Overwatch, like
more fast-paced stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say fast-paced.
Because I just get way too bored playing Battlefield. But I don't know about you guys.
I think what Battlefield kind of makes up for in that usually is it's definitely more slow paced than something like Call of Duty or Overwatch. But one thing I always loved about Battlefield was like how like the matches when you're in them, there's like so much shit going on that feels like you're like literally in the middle of like an actual like battle. Like
there's good
it
qualities.
Feels real.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the buildings are blowing
and
up.
everything. Yeah. So, but Andrew, what about you?
Yeah, I look at it, I like Battlefield. That Battlefield 1, I had the World War 1-esque one. I've said one like 6 times in that sentence trying to describe what the game is. Jesus. I put about 100 hours into it. I like Battlefield honestly more than Call of Duty because I like kind of like the strategy aspect. But Call of Duty has, the fast-paced feel to it, which it also tickles a different part of my gaming brain.
It takes a lot better to be better, or it takes a lot more to be better at Battlefield, I feel like.
Yeah, it does, because you have to have like kind of like a strategic objective in there, because it's not just like shoot man until dead and then win.
I don't like the strategy, man. I'm too basic for that.
But I feel like
respawning 100 times.
I feel like it's not to like try to sound like some like geriatric ass video gamer, but like I've gotten to the point where like I get so bored with shooting games like so quickly because the gameplay is just so repetitive. Like I think I played Cold War like a ton for like the first month, and then after the first, like I haven't even played it in like a couple months, honestly. I think I played like Zombies like one time since in like the past 3 months. So I mean, I'm interested to see how it is. I highly doubt I'll pick it up, but I the way they describe it sounds like it could be like, a grand scale, true next gen, feel. Because what they said in that tweet, or what the CEO of EA said, was to expect an epic scale. Battlefield 1 and all the other Battlefield games are huge already, so I don't know how, this must be massive.
I've heard they're doubling the count, because it's like usually 64 players. It's gonna be 100. It's gonna be 128.
But those so they have too. That's insane.
They have that. He said it would expect all out warfare. I guess their last couple of games haven't been all out warfare. It's just been reserved warfare. And then game changing destruction, which is very interesting because I mean that's what Call of Duty is really missing, is destructive environments. I feel like, because like playing on Battlefield, like you said, John, that one map where like the skyscraper is like collapsing and stuff while you're playing, and it like changes the entire map.
Yeah,
like that's legit. Insane. That's something that needs to happen. And I think it'll be interesting also to see kind of how they go about this game, because I mean I would assume that it would be something where it would be a $60 game with DLC that comes. But
70 on PS5.
Yeah, but I think on like some kind of like far out maybe like pipe dream would be that it's like a free to play game, because I know EA during their meeting said that only 26% of their revenue from the past fiscal year came from actual game sales. So like the $60 price tag, $40, $30, whatever, buying the game, like games that cost money, only made up for 26% of the revenue. The rest was made up from freemium games like
Apex.
Yeah, Apex, in-game transactions, stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see where they go. I think they could go 2 different directions, where they go the traditional route, but I also think there's a very small chance, but I think there is a chance that they go to a free-to-play version, or at least come out with some kind of battle royale based around Battlefield like Call of Duty has. So I think it'll be interesting.
I almost think it wouldn't get the respect that it deserves if it went free-to-play right away.
Well, EA's just gone too crazy with the free-to-play stuff, and way too crazy with the DLC.
They could go to like a format like Call of Duty had with Modern Warfare and Warzone, where you have like the premium game, and then they have like a free-to-play mode.
That's what I think they'll do.
Like that, which is what I think they'll do if they're smart, because I mean,
like a battle royale mode.
Yeah, Activision has to make boatloads of cash off of people playing Warzone, buying like skins and all like the battle pass, all that stuff. So
I mean, like with that, they moved the Crash Bandicoot developer, which this sucks to say, but like they moved the Crash Bandicoot 4 developer to Call of Duty. So now that that's happened, every single Activision studio is working on Call of Duty in some capacity, which is kind of shitty, but I guess that's where the money is, right? But I guess like going from there, moving on to the next thing, this wasn't really a story, but it's just something I wanted to talk to you about, John, because I mean, you and me are pretty big like MCU fans. The hype is real, I feel like, for Spider-Man No Way Home. And
for sure.
Yeah. And Andrew Garfield, who is the amazing Spider-Man series, Spider-Man. He was on a podcast recently, and he talked about how people need to like chill out, and that he did not get a call, like that he did not get a call from Marvel about it. I wanted to ask you, John, what if you believe him? Because personally, I don't believe that at all. I like, especially the fact that Doc Ock from the Tobey Maguire movies and Electro from like the Andrew Garfield movies. Those are characters from two different like Spider-Man series that are confirmed going to be in No Way Home. It's like you're going to bring the villains, but you're not going to bring Toby or him. Like bullshit.
Right. Well, that's what I thought. I thought that I've already seen confirmation that Andrew Garfield is in the new movie. Like, why would he not be? Like, granted, he didn't do a great job as Spider-Man. I think we could probably all agree on that. I apologize to any listeners that love the Spider-Man movies that everyone forgot about. But I mean,
I think he was better than the movies he was in. But yeah,
I mean, I think he's a decent actor. The writing on the videos was definitely not it was definitely not good, in my opinion. But like, they're the most forgettable Spider-Man movies. Does anyone have them? Are they on any streaming services? I don't even know. But I'm not a big fan of the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, but I'd be hard pressed to not see him in the new movie, especially considering they've hyped it up to be this big crossover event where Tobey Maguire is going to be in it. So why not bring, every Spider-Man that's been there for the past 10 years, 20 years into the mix? And I know they will. It's Marvel. And I think Andrew Garfield just has a better poker face than the current Spider-Man. I'm blanking on his name for some reason, but Tom Holland. Yeah. He's the king of spoilers. But
yeah. But what about like the Venom trailer came out? I'm guessing you saw it. Did you see the trailer for Venom?
Yes.
Yeah. Does that make you want to go back and watch the first? Maybe I'm not gonna lie, it looks better than the first one. I thought the first one was but this one looks a little more interesting, especially with Carnage and shit.
I actually like the first one a lot. That was a really good movie in my opinion.
Yeah, some people I know really like it.
I've actually never seen the first, but the trailer makes me want to watch the second. And I'm the kind of guy that if I'm gonna watch the sequel to something, I'm gonna go back and watch the first. So I'll probably go back and watch the first Venom, even though I've heard it's not that great. I haven't seen any spoilers for it, so I definitely watch it.
It's unintentionally funny / entertaining, to me.
Which I wouldn't expect from Venom.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I don't know why the Spider-Man identity got lost with that film, but
it's all about rights.
But the trailer, right? But the trailer for the second one looks pretty damn good, and I would say I'm excited to see that, and I'm excited to see what the entire Spider-Man verse has in store for us, because with what WandaVision set up, and for what like we've already got in the rumor pipeline, I think that there's almost an infinite number of possibilities. Like, I don't think anyone can predict really what's going to happen.
Especially if the rumors, we're going to see the multiverse stuff happen at some point.
Exactly.
The Doctor Strange movie is literally called Multiverse of Madness. So it's coming by that point. So
with the latest, Marvel movie TV series release and their schedule, I think they're setting themselves up for another big push. I think there's going to be another Avengers, not necessarily the Avengers, but something in that regard,
like the new Avengers or something. But I agree totally. Andrew, I wanted to ask you because I know you're a big fan of Insomniac's Spider-Man games. Are you more interested in the film side of Spider-Man now, or do do you just keep your interest on the game end?
I mean, I like the Spider-Man movies the most out of all like the MCU. Just because I've always liked Spider-Man as a superhero.
Yeah.
I don't think the games will change how I feel about the movies. Like I honestly don't really care about the film side. I care more about the game side just because of how good Spider-Man on PS4 and how Miles Morales was. And I mean, I really like the Spider-Man films because like I love the yeah, I love the environment, like just being in New York, and I definitely love the Miles Morales movie. I can't remember what the hell the movie's called for some reason.
Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes, Into the Spider-Verse. I really like that. I always like how creative they get with the movies, and I like all the villains and that Spider-Man faces in all the movies and games. So I love the franchise. Nothing in me really says, hey, you need to watch, the new Spider-Man movie or the Venom movie. Like nothing is like pulling me or hyping me up to watch it. I'm more like on the Spider-Man front, I'm more looking forward to Spider-Man 2 whenever that game comes out.
Yeah, for sure. That and Into the Spider-Verse too. Like I'm super hyped for.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like yeah, I could totally get what you're saying. And me and John are totally like plugged into the MCU machine. It's like a drug.
I keep up on all of that. Yep.
Well, it's not like I think like
I used to know.
Personally, after watching Into the Spider-Verse, I think like the animated Spider-Man like just visually looks cooler than like the MCU Spider-Man movies. Like I think the animation style, like the Sony animators did such a goddamn good job on that movie. Like it's incredible looking movie. And actually my wallpaper on my laptop is the scene where he's upside down over the skyline because it's like just such an iconic still from that movie.
It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me to think that like out of like all the animated movies that exist, like of all time, like between Pixar and whatever it may be, that an animated Spider-Man movie is like genuinely considered like probably like a top 3 animated film. Like I know a lot of people that put that in their like top 3, top 5.
Yes,
like,
dude, it is such a good movie. It is such a good movie.
I might be the odd man
out
on
love that movie.
But I like it. I like it a lot, but that could be a main topic for sure.
We can talk about that one day. But anyways, let's keep the ball rolling. Now, this has kind of been the main story. It's been going on for like the past week and a half, I think. It's been a super entertaining show to watch in terms of the video game world. But basically, the Apple versus Epic Games lawsuit has begun. It's been super interesting for the games industry or the games media to really look in on this because the video game industry, honestly, is actually super secretive in terms of like projects and discussions and a lot of that. There's a lot of like behind the scenes, like, building up, surprise stuff. Like unlike, the movies industry, we know like exactly what movies are coming out, when they're coming out. With the gaming industry, it's a little more secretive, for whatever reason. But basically the lawsuit started and there's been a lot of interesting tidbits that have been coming out of it. The whole lawsuit is basically surrounding that Epic is suing Apple because they feel like they have an unjust like monopoly on the Apple storefront, and they want to basically override that so they can allow something like Fortnite to be accessed from like the Google Play Store on an Apple device or something, or an Epic's game store without having to go through the Apple Store. And it's a big fight over like how much of a cut Apple's taking. Maybe it's like too high is what Epic's saying, but that, I was going to pass it to you guys and ask, like, what do you guys think about that? But I also wanted to share some interesting little tidbits that I thought would be fun to share that have come out of this. One, so Sony and Microsoft have gotten pulled into this whole lawsuit because, they're pretty common collaborators with Epic and they have to share some of their business details with that. One thing that came out that was super interesting was Microsoft was there at the case and they actually said that they haven't made any profit ever from the hardware sales of an Xbox. And that was such a crazy statement that Apple literally like rebutted that claim and said like, we want to see proof. We want to see proof. We actually wanted you to come and bring us documents in the next hearing or whatever and show us that you have not made any hardware money. And then from there, Sony, there's some interesting Sony documents come out showing that they're pretty against crossplay. They basically had all these demands that were about like making them look good and like explaining where the profit is coming in. And they essentially did get that, as we came to find out, because crossplay did come to be. And honestly, like if you connect the dots, I actually think they got more than that, because guess what? Sony is actually a minority stakeholder or shareholder in Epic, which is interesting to think about post, crossplay being allowed. From there, and some more interesting tidbits on the Nintendo side that have come out of this are that, one, there is a contract that came up from Nintendo, like internal holdings, that that showed that Nintendo, anytime that they do any business with someone, they do some sort of like search or background check to make sure that they're not working with the Yakuza, which I think is really funny. And then finally, this one I thought was so ridiculous, but I had to share it, is Xbox internally thought that Breath of the Wild 2, Bayonetta, and Metroid Prime 4 were all going to release between like September to December of 2020, which, I mean, they were so far off about that. But also, like, if those 3 games released in that span, that would be like, I would be having like I would probably be having a heart attack, and I'd probably need like someone to come in, like give me a defibrillator, that's a lot of stuff I shared. I guess like general thoughts on like, maybe you guys could pick anything I really just mentioned there. But John, what are your thoughts on kind of all the shit just mentioned?
Well, I'm actually going to pass it to Andrew, because I know he had something to say quick.
Yo, is Microsoft stupid? I mean, really, honestly. Okay, you got Epic Games who made Fortnite, and you got Apple in this lawsuit. And Sony just catches all these wayward shots, like these drive-by shootings are happening, and Xbox is the victim here. Like they're getting completely exposed. And it's like, okay, first of all, if you don't have Microsoft backing Xbox, they're done. Like, how have you never made a profit off of a piece of hardware? Ever. Dude, Nintendo sells their consoles like at the market floor, like the floor of the market value, and they still have always made a profit off of each console they sell. Like, yeah, they have lower specs, but from a business perspective, how do you look at Xbox's hardware and be like, yeah, this is a good idea, we're losing money on this is a great venture for everyone? Like, I don't know. I mean, obviously they like requested that they like actually pay attention, like bring documents showing they've never made a profit. But how do you like not just like go full on into Game Pass and just make Game Pass like on every console, and then just like get out of the hardware race? Like, how do you not just like go to a service-based thing? Because it doesn't make any sense. Like, you never made a profit on a piece of hardware. Like, are you dumb? Like, do you not know how to run a business?
Like, are you stupid?
Even like PlayStation, PlayStations, they get sold for a loss like the first year, but after that first year, they start
making, but they make up for it. Like, yeah, they make a profit. Xbox, like, dude, you cannot seriously tell me that you are still taking a loss on Xbox Ones. It's been 8 years since the Xbox One came out. You cannot be selling that for a loss 8 years into its life cycle. That's ridiculous.
What is the
supply? The PlayStation 4 is more powerful, and it's not being sold for a loss.
Yes, and it's cheaper,
and it looks better.
Oh my god! Like, it doesn't make sense. And then
Andrew, you're supply chain major. Can you explain this at all?
Well, I mean, you don't even have to be a supply chain major. You just have to realize, as like hardware components age, they go down in the cost that it takes to use them. Like, that's just how the world works.
What do you think could be going wrong with Microsoft's supply chain?
Whatever they're doing, they have terrible negotiators. If they're not able to source these individual parts for a profit, like, are you?
They're probably not going back to those negotiations. They're probably just paying the original contract price.
Dude, they probably signed a contract like in 2011 or
2013, and they're still paying the same price.
And they're like, this will be an 10-year contract for this price, and then they make it to 2021 and they're selling Xbox Ones for a loss. Like, dude, come on, Jesus.
Bill Gates is having a bad time lately, isn't he?
Yeah, Bill Gates
is into contracting now with my job, and I know that there's no way that they should be losing money right now. No way. Negotiate your damn contract.
They gotta have something in there where it's like the market value of the parts is like what it goes down to. Like but it just sounds like they agreed on a price and we're just like, okay, we'll just do this for the entire lifespan of the Xbox One until we stop making it.
And the crazier part about it is like, look, they're moving towards Game Pass, so they're moving towards a software-centric focus. Yet Game Pass is also not profitable. He's also disclosed that.
Do they make any money at Xbox? Like seriously,
they're just losing money all around.
The only thing
for the long haul.
The main thing people buy on Xbox. The main thing people buy on Xbox is not exclusives because they don't have any good exclusives except Forza or Gears of War maybe. But even those have gone down the shitter, especially Halo being delayed. Like they aren't making a huge amount of money on games because they're only taking a percentage. Yeah, and you can't make millions off of selling other people's games. Like
billions. They need billions to support this business, and they're not.
And then the other thing, just to wrap it up, because I could go on all day about how goddamn stupid Xbox is. You thought all three of Nintendo's big hitters. Money. You thought all three of Nintendo's big hitters were coming in the same year? The same quarter. Yeah, and they're obviously showing they have no idea how to fucking run a business because if you legitimately think that three of Nintendo's most anticipated titles since the launch of the Switch are all going to come out in the same holiday season, like, dude, Nintendo might have more first-party franchises than Xbox executives have brain cells, and I'm not joking. Like,
Microsoft's giving Nintendo a lot of credit here.
I mean, look at Breath of the Wild, for example. Like, there were almost 6 years between Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild coming out, and they think, like, even as a Nintendo fan, seeing them in 2017 say, like, oh, like, Bayonetta 3's coming, like, dude, I mean, you have to, if they don't have any gameplay, you have to assume it's at least 4 years out at the minimum. I mean, and the fact that like 2 years ago, Nintendo was like, yeah, we didn't like how Metroid Prime 4 was going, so we restarted development entirely 2 years ago. And the Xbox thought that was coming out in 1 year. They thought they were going to go from start to complete on Metroid Prime in 1 year. Oh, dude, come on, man. Gee, many Christmas. Holy cow. Like, get a grip, man. Like, oh, man. Okay, anyway, somebody take it from me before I just start slandering Xbox.
Yeah.
I mean,
thoughts on all this stuff?
You said a lot, Andrew, and I agree with you. I think in general that Apple is a little bit, they're kind of prying, I feel like, on the income. I feel like 30%, and that's what I read, that 30% of all in-app purchases, all purchases in general on the App Store go to Apple. I think that's a little crazy for creators. I would feel like the App Store in general would be like kind of this open source platform. You know, maybe Apple takes a penny. You know, it's like a grocery store where they take a penny profit, but it's 30%. And honestly, I don't blame Epic Games for doing what they did.
I think they're trying to get it down to. I think they're trying to get it down to 18%.
And 18% is a reasonable ass negotiation. Because I think 18% is high. I mean, if you think about taxes, imagine if you were taxed at 30%. We're not, despite what people think, we're not taxed at 30%. And to have that be a tax on all of your revenue from the App Store on top of, you know, actual taxes, it's taxing on a business. No pun intended, but I think that's a little bit high. And the fact that Apple comes back with their bigwig lawyers and they have a counter lawsuit to that, like, I think it's a little ridiculous. I think that Apple should compromise a bit in this situation because 30%, I mean, imagine if we were trying to put a $1 app on the App Store and we're trying to make money that way. 30% is huge. That's huge. I would think that the App Store would be an open source marketplace, but, you know, obviously it's not. And I think Epic Games is doing a good thing here, to be honest. But I think Andrew got, a lot of my thoughts on a lot of the other stuff that you mentioned. But what about you, Parker?
To be honest, I don't have too many thoughts on the Xbox thing because honestly, Bill Gates is just kind of taking L after L after L. I don't want to bash on the guy too much. I feel bad.
I don't think he has a lot of.
He's got 150
say.
billion reasons not to care what you think. So you go off, King.
Yeah, poor guy. But honestly, with the
poor guy.
Poor guy.
The billionaire. The poor guy that's a billionaire. But Apple just is fleecing people left and right, dude, and I'm getting sick of it. Apple is just milking people out of their money every year, and people aren't even realizing it. Also, like 30%? Are you fucking kidding me? Like,
I thought that was high when I saw it.
That is way too high.
It's high, and also like the App Store is. I mean, you see like big games on the App Store, but like 80% of the App Store is just like indie developers, like just people making like an app one time, or just a small company making apps. Dude, 30% is highway robbery, because by the time you get done, like if you own your own business and like have like an LLC or whatever to like make these apps, you're paying taxes to the government. And then you're getting 30% yacked from you from Apple. From Apple, a $2 trillion company is fleecing you for 30% of the money you make. That's absurd, dude. That's bullshit.
First of all, my phone doesn't come with a brick to charge the damn thing. Okay.
We talked about this. Literally, it all connects.
Second of all, Apple took away the MagSafe charger on the iMac. Another fleece job. And just every time like I think of Apple, I just think shelling my money. I'm wasting my money to this corporation that's just hogging it like from the rest of the world. They're just unnecessarily charging people up the ass and screwing them all the time. So I'm starting to. I used to love Apple with how everything's been interconnected and the security is like top notch with Apple, but lately they're just so proprietary and just so gouging that I don't know how I can think of them. Like, I don't even want to buy Apple products anymore. Like, I just don't want to support that company.
To that point.
Well, just to kind of put a bow on this whole thing, I'm going to tell you guys something. That 30%, that's the standard. You look at any digital storefront, it's 30%, which is
PlayStation
crazy.
and Xbox both take 30% as well. It's just like some agreed upon like arbitrary number that like nobody can really justify. They're just like, yeah, it's 30%.
It's always been 30%. It's why would we change it? It's always been 30%. It's always been that way.
No matter what company does it, it's a fleece job. No matter what.
Every digital media company that hosts any type of like marketplace does that. Like Google, PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, they all do it.
Imagine if they lowered that number. Yeah. Like what kind of content would come out of it? Like what new apps, what new like movies, TV shows, like in general, like anything, just the kind of content that we'd be able to see and the quality. And just like, I feel like we'd be able to do a lot more things if less money was going to these money pits.
Well, and it's like for like an indie developer, like 30%, like if you just look at it on a surface level, you're like, okay, like 30%, your game's $10 on the eShop. Like, okay, that's like $3. But like, if you think of it the way it really is, every third sale you make doesn't go to you. Like you only make 2 out of every 3 sales comes to you. And when you put it that way, then people are like, well, damn, that's kind of shit. Like, it's like you're giving away your game for free every 3 times somebody buys it.
Right.
Yeah. So
it's ridiculous.
Yikes.
But,
I mean, Epic's making a lot of money. It's no secret, but I mean, Apple's a $2 trillion company.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think this whole lawsuit, though, to be completely honest, is just a kind of a little bit. Jesus fuck. I think
Squeaky man.
Yeah, I think part of this is somewhat of a publicity stunt. I think it's a bit of a publicity stunt to some extent, because they had to release their profit splits and mobile was like only 7%, which is like
Yeah, so I actually remember my first viewing of the film. I had to have been like 4 or 5. Now, I know my dad listens to the podcast, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dad, but I don't know if it was the first one I watched. I want to say it was the very first Star Wars that I saw. And dude, I have very fond memories of this movie. And I honestly, without spoiling too much, later down the conversation, I love this movie. I have a lot of fond memories of watching this movie. I had a Pod Racer Lego set. I had a Lego set of I swear I had a Lego set of not the Death Star, but what looks like that first film, Phantom Menace, obviously. But dude, I love a lot of the movie, but I could agree with you, Ursel, when you say that the first 30 minutes for sure is stale, and there's moments of it that are a little far-fetched, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But Parker, do you remember your first viewing of this movie? I must have been 4 or 5. I don't know about you, but
yeah. So my first viewing of this movie was when I was it's like either 5 or 6. I was at a family member's house, and she just put it on and for us all to watch. My initial thoughts when I first saw it, I was just like, "Whoa, the racing is so cool! Like this looks awesome." And then I watched it back in high school, like about my junior senior year, to rewatch, and I did not particularly like this film. There are moments of this film that are absolutely legendary that I will always remember, for sure. Like there are great moments to this movie, but there's just too much filler, and the dialogue is so trash that
that's a great way to put it.
I really cannot give this movie a great grade. We'll go into ratings later, but I just do not personally like this film. What about you, Andrew? What did you have to say about the Phantom Menace?
The first time I saw it was actually when I was either 12 or 13. The only way I had actually seen it was by playing Lego Star Wars, the original one. That's the only way I knew how the movie went. I actually watched it at a family friend's house back when I was in middle school because my godfather is a huge Star Wars fan. Shout out Jay if you're listening. So I ended up watching it at his house when I was in like middle school when we went to visit them in Kansas City. So really the first exposure I had to it was playing Lego Star Wars, funny enough. So I had a very I understood the story by the time I watched it. You know, there's just obviously when the Lego Star Wars games leave out a lot that is in the actual movie. So I didn't know, like, you know, the intricacies, like Jar Jar Binks being the most annoying bastard on the planet.
Funny enough, I know a lot of people that got their first experience from Lego Star Wars.
Yes. And like not knowing how bad the dialogue was. So like going into watching it for the first time, I was like, man, you know, this is the first movie, you know, this like made tons of money in the box office. This is insane. And then, you know, the movie actually happened. And then by the time I was done, I was like, wow, I can't believe I watched that. But initial thoughts, I'll go very, very far. I will go very deep into this movie. But those are my initial thoughts. That's how I watched it the first time.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack with this thing. I think personally.
This thing, I agree.
But
this body of media.
This artistic expression by director George Lucas, written by George Lucas.
These angry media all around the room.
Starring Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor, Natalie Portman.
Young Natalie Portman.
Indeed.
How old was she when she filmed this?
16. I actually looked it up while I was, because I was like, she's really young in this movie. And I was like, dang,
Jar Jar was making some pretty suggestive comments.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But okay, so I'm just gonna run through the plot, and I'll stop at certain parts to pretty much kind of stop and gauge how everyone is. Like, what do you think of these moments? That kind of thing. So we'll start off. I'm pulling this straight from the Wikipedia. I don't care what anyone says. I love Wikipedia. So starting off, this is the first paragraph. So here we go. The Trade Federation upsets order in the Galactic Republic by blockading the planet Naboo in preparation for a full-scale invasion. The Republic's leader, Supreme Chancellor Valorum, dispatches Jedi Knight Qui-Gon Jinn and his apprentice Obi-Wan Kenobi to negotiate with Trade Federation Viceroy Newt Gunray, Darth Sidious. Viceroy Newt Gunray. Darth Sidious, a Sith Lord and the Trade Federation's secret benefactor, orders the Viceroy to kill the Jedi and begin their invasion with an army of battle droids. The Jedi escape and flee to Naboo. During the invasion, Qui-Gon Jinn saves the life of Gungan outcast Jar Jar Binks. Indebted to Qui-Gon Jinn, Jar Jar leads the Jedi to Otoh, the Gungan's underwater city. The Jedi fail to persuade the Gungan leader, Boss Nass, to help the planet's surface dwellers, but manage to obtain Jar Jar's guidance and underwater transport to Theed, the capital city of Naboo. After rescuing Queen Padme Amidala, the group make their escape from Naboo aboard her royal starship, intending to reach the Republic capital planet of Coruscant. So that's where we are right now. A lot to unpack. Essentially, the entire opening act of the movie. And kind of going back to what I mentioned earlier, talking about what I mentioned earlier, I think the first act of this movie is absolute dog ass. Like,
oh, come on. This is no break, man. Okay. Come on.
This was a major snooze fest of the movie. Like, this is a major section.
Damn break.
Hold on. Let me explain. We're starting off Star Wars. This is the return of Star Wars, baby. This is episode 1.
The hype is real right now. Keep this in mind.
But also keep this in mind, nothing is developed yet.
Okay, fair. But the start of it, and I'm going to give it some kudos here, but I'm also going to shit on it here. I think just starting off, this movie starts off on a terrible foot with the whole like trade embargo, like political disputes, like, and I'll give it props for this. I think that's an interesting idea to tackle for Star Wars. but like this is not the movie to do it. Like this movie feels at the end of the day like a kid's film, and like starting it off with fucking political negotiations and trade embargoes, like what the fuck? Like that's what you're starting off with? Like I thought that was a terrible foot to start off with, and then going from there, like
The underwater travel was also a snooze fest. Like
it's a little
major
insane that it
snooze
kind of
fest.
started off with that. Like
Yeah.
everything started off with that.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
that's what we're led
And-
to believe, you know?
Yeah, but like, and I mean, I kind of appreciate this movie in general. This movie's smaller scope. It's not like super like end of the universe type stakes going on, which I actually think is kind of cool. But from there, you know, you meet Jar Jar Binks, which is notoriously those like probably contention for the worst Star Wars character ever fucking created, and he's terrible. The way they just come across him is so coincidental and like happenstance. It's just like, oh, Misa guide you, like, and he's so annoying. But somehow this guy is like the key to everything. But
I do have a point about that.
Yeah,
a
but
big
that's-
point about that.
But that's my thoughts up for everything up until this point. What about John? Yeah, I know you're.
Yeah,
let's
I'll
start
start
with-
us off, dude.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, in the first 30 minutes of the film, when they first what is it?
Keep it going. Come on. Where's the energy?
What are the droids called?
Droidicas.
Holy droids.
Droidicas.
Droidicas. When they first encounter those, they literally, and this is the first time I ever noticed this.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
You know what I'm talking about?
I think I know what you're gonna say.
So this
If it's what I think you're talking about.
Lisa, honey.
I can't help it, but I can't help but laughing. But I watched this movie for the first time in a long ass time last night.
I'm shocked I didn't notice this either.
I'm shocked I didn't
It caught me
notice
off guard.
this.
It
I'm
caught
so
me.
glad you noticed this.
Just
but-
say it. Just say it.
When they first encounter the droidicas, drum roll, they literally teleport.
Yes.
Fucking teleport.
Yes.
Did you notice that? Andrew?
Yes.
Yes, I know. I
So
watched it this
what the
morning. I watched it this morning, and I was like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, I was like,
Daisy
whoa.
Dude, okay, so my fiance has never seen the Phantom Menace until last night. And she was like, I didn't know Jedi could do that. And I was like, wait, rewind that shit. I've
didn't
never
either.
noticed
We
that.
didn't know
What the
that
fuck
either,
just
bro.
happened?
Yeah.
So
like,
is that
what?
intention? So is that intentional, or is that just a continuity error? Because I've never noticed that.
It's like the way it looks like.
No idea.
Like the way I think it was intended to be was like, it's so weird because it cuts so fast that like it shows them dash down the hallway, the droidicas move down the hallway, and then the next shot is them like 100 meters down, which is like,
Yeah, they're like a quarter mile down the way.
Yeah. Which
Okay,
is-
but my point to that is when you mention that the meeting with Jar Jar Binks is totally happenstance, it's if they can teleport a quarter mile like they did in the beginning of the film, then why the hell couldn't Qui-Gon Jinn get away? Like, why was he just jogging away from these, droid tanks when he could have just teleported or, Jedi jumped away from it,
I have a
That's
feeling
my
there's-
biggest point with
I have a
that-
feeling.
that's-
I have a
seems like
feeling that was just not
continuity error.
intentional. Yeah, like
Well,
continuity
there's
error.
a-
But
not
it's
I'm
still-
so glad you guys noticed that.
And there's also, I don't know if you guys ever like thought this through, but I noticed this when I was watching it today. In that first part when they're on like the Trade Federation ship or whatever, and Qui-Gon like puts his lightsaber through the door and starts just cutting it out. How does this like steel door just like how does the door like go away? He just cuts a hole in the middle and all of a sudden
Okay,
it's
but
like
that
they're on the
shit's
other side.
epic. That is epic.
But he just cuts a hole in the door and then all of a sudden they're just like on the other side. Like, did I miss where they like went through the door or like what happened?
No, was that when they got trapped inside and then there was the gas and it was opened?
Maybe
No, you're right. I don't know, Andrew. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know
wait,
how
have
they
you
got out of there.
Also keep reading the script because I have a very fine point coming up before the racing scene that I want to talk about.
What about you, Parker? What's your thoughts on the opening?
So the whole opening of the movie is just, I didn't have any really interest in it. I mean, I just remember from both the times I watched, I was just like, are they going to get into anything good here? I know it's like the first movie and they got to do a lead up, blah, 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 but it's such a long movie that like, I don't need this much filler, man. Let's get to the plot already. So I am all for going forward with the script whenever you're ready, Arsenal.
Yeah. All right. So going from there, Jesus, sorry, I'm choking here. Passing through the Federation blockade, the ship is damaged in the crossfire and its hyperdrive is disabled. The group lands for repairs on the outlying desert planet of Tatooine, which at that point is supposed to be a callback to, when Luke is there in episode 4. Situated beyond the Republic's jurisdiction, Qui-Gon, Jar Jar, R2-D2, and Padme, disguised as one of her handmaidens, visit the settlement of Mos Espa to purchase a new part for their hyperdrive. They encounter a junk dealer Watto and his 9-year-old slave Anakin Skywalker, a gifted pilot and engineer who built a protocol droid, C-3PO. Qui-Gon Jinn senses a strong presence of the Force within Anakin and is convinced that he's the prophesized chosen one, destined to restore balance to the Force. With Watto refusing to accept money in Republic currency, Qui-Gon wagers both the required hyperdrive part and Anakin's freedom in a pod race. Anakin wins the race and joins the group to be trained as a Jedi, leaving behind his mother, Shmi. En route to their starship, Qui-Gon is attacked by Darth Maul, Sidious's apprentice, who was sent to capture Amidala. After a brief lightsaber duel, Qui-Gon escapes on board the starship with the others. Now, from here, this is kind of the middle portion of the movie. A lot of scenes that I think are synonymous with this film are in this portion of the film. And I think there's a lot to talk about in this stuff here. I'll start off that I actually think like Princess Amidala's arc is pretty interesting in this film, with the fact that she's like swapping with one of her handmaidens and walking around with like Qui-Gon and them. And one of my favorite interactions that keep happening in the film is when Padme is like, the Queen won't approve, and Qui-Gon is just like, oh, the Queen doesn't have to know, or the Queen should trust me. So I thought those are super cool. I think that's it. So between the two main child actresses in this movie, she's definitely much better than the other one, because holy shit, I hate probably behind Jar Jar. I hate Kid Anakin in this film, and I wish I could go back and talk to George Lucas, because I wish I could go back and talk to George Lucas and be like, yo, what is up with you in the word yippee? Every kid in this movie is like, yippee! Like, why that word? Why?
I don't remember that. What are you talking about?
No, all they do is just use generic like child like stock image like sound clips. And like, yay!
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And
like the laughter I noticed right before the pod racing scene.
Yeah, like I've
generic
heard that a million
laughter
times
track
before, bro.
But also, so I don't like Anakin Skywalker's like performances in this movie. I also think it's kind of weird, looking at the whole trilogy, that they start off the saga with Anakin this young, because I think his story doesn't really even bother picking up until later on. But I guess they wanted to show, how he became a Jedi, like got even brought into the Jedi Order to begin with. So whatever, I guess I get that. It was cool. It's cool to see like Jabba the Hutt make a little cameo appearance. I thought that was super sick. I'm not gonna lie. I actually, there's two scenes that I really like in this movie, and I actually really liked the pod racing scene. I know a lot of people hate that scene, But I actually think it's really fun and cool to watch. And I thought it was honestly a really fun sequence in the film, and it breaks up a lot of the monotony surrounding it otherwise. Uh, and then the last thing I want to talk about in this little section was the Jesus Christ metaphor with Anakin about how, oh, he didn't have a father. I thought that was kind of goofy. And then also, there's another thing. Oh, I actually don't mind the introduction of midichlorians either at this point. I know a lot of people are like, have gotten upset about like, oh, the Force is supposed to be mystical and like, like a spiritual thing, but midichlorians just like break it down to like a science or something, which I'm like, I mean, I get that, but I also think it's cool to have both perspectives. Like, okay, like what exactly is the reason? Oh, it's these like life forms within everyone. And the more of them you have, the stronger you are in the Force, but you can still view it as like a quote unquote spiritual thing in the Star Wars universe. But a lot of different things. That's my kind of thoughts on the entire Tatooine section. But what about you, Andrew? How about you start us off this time?
Yeah, so I got two things from the middle of this, and they both tie into each other. So, before they go to Tatooine, when they get on the big silver ship, I don't remember what it's called. But this is the first part where I realized the writing in this movie is atrocious. The dialogue is very poor, and I don't know.
Everyone's so negative.
Yes, and I don't know if it's like, I don't know if it's what George Lucas was thinking when he was like writing the script, or whoever was helping him write the script. But there's one part that sticks out in general, and that's when like Qui-Gon goes to like get all like the like palace guards freed from the droids, and he goes to like get on the ship, and the droid is like, he's like, we're taking the ship to get away, and the droid's like, does not compute, you're under arrest, and then he just like kills him, and I'm like, that's the worst piece of dialogue I've ever heard. Like, you're under arrest, like
Roger.
like, it's just so like mindless, and it just stuck out to me. And I think it kind of goes into, like you said, Arcel, the kid Anakin is like a terrible character, but I think it's kind of like the Kelly Marie Tran issue with The Last Jedi, where everybody hated her, but it's really just the writing for her character is god awful. And there's really like, I don't think the kid Anakin, because I know people like, I know he had a lot of issues because like huge Star Wars fans back then like really went after him on like internet forums and stuff, which is really, it's sad because he's a child actor. I mean, he's still a minor. Like, you can't get mad at a kid for acting the way he does, especially when you just disregard the fact that the rest of the movie is
when you have Liam Neeson and like Natalie Portman and like Ewan McGregor, and they're delivering not great performances either.
Nobody delivers a good performance in this movie just because the dialogue is trash. And I think the fact that people went online and like bullied the hell out of this kid is like so sad, because it's not his fault that his dialogue is terrible, and that the writing in this movie is awful. And
keep going. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna wrap it up and just say I don't think the actor did bad. I think the character is just written awfully, and I think they like, it almost feels like they threw in Kid Anakin like last second and just had to make up dialogue, because his dialogue is so generic and it's like so boring, and it just doesn't. Yeah, and it doesn't flow with the rest of the movie. But that's. I'll leave the rest of the movie for the end of the synopsis.
What do you think about the pod racing stuff?
I think the pod racing scene, like you said, broke it up really well. I just like I was saying earlier, like coming from my first experience with this movie being Lego Star Wars, I just remember how awful the pod racing level was, and
that level was so hard. It was so
it was insanely difficult. So I had a negative outlook, but I think watching it again, it does, like you said, break up the monotony and the awfulness of, the first part of the movie. And it kind of transitions it into like the faster paced, better second half of the movie, I think.
It adds some pace to the movie, which it really needed at that point to like get you out of the slump of just plot line.
Yeah.
Finally just something.
It's an
really the
exciting
pod
scene.
racing scene kicks off the third act.
Yeah,
I feel like.
and it's such an exciting scene because he keeps coming across all these issues with his pod racer and with all the other people he's competing against, and it like kind of adds some like suspense because I mean obviously you see the last three and know he's Darth Vader, so like obviously he doesn't like lose, but it's like the whole time you're like, damn, it like seems like he's really gonna get his ass kicked in this race. And it actually is a part of the movie that's like a shining spot just because it's got so much like edge of your seat like action and like suspense, and I think that's the one redeeming quality.
Do you care about midichlorians?
Not really, no. I like did not absorb that part at all.
Medichlorians.
All right.
Yeah.
Who are you gonna say something?
No, yes. I was just gonna pass it to Parker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so what I was gonna try to say earlier was like for all the people that are kind of shitting on the kid Anakin character for like his bad lines, like there's a specific movie after the Phantom Menace. It kind of rhymes with Smack of the Roans, but that movie has the worst.
What movie are you referring to?
Yeah, Attack of the Clones, of course, but that movie has the worst dialogue by far and characters that provide even less to the story. Like, for all the people shitting on the kid, like, come on, you know better. There's more different people to go after for that, but like Andrew is touching upon, like, if when all the actors like Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor, like when all of them have bad performances, that's indicative of something else. Not of the actors, in my opinion. There's just something behind the scenes where you're like, yeah, there's something off in the writing here. But otherwise, the pod racing was pretty cool though. But John, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, with what I consider to be the second act of the film, I love the foreshadowing of the events to come, in 4 through 6 and the backstory of Anakin and where he came from. I think that's really cool to see. And I think they actually did a pretty good job of it, despite the shitty dialogue. I mean, it's not the greatest dialogue in the world, but I think it does the job. To be honest, I think it tells the story. But can we talk about the fact that Anakin's mom doesn't give a damn hell about him? Like, literally, apparently she's Mother Mary and has Anakin without a father. But when Qui-Gon's like, yeah, I'm gonna take Anakin and he's mine. I can't save you, but I can save him from slavery, and I can make him this big great thing. Yeah, cool. Okay, sure. Like, what? Dude, like, you couldn't have had a little bit more character development there? Maybe make Anakin's mom give a damn about her kid going off and never seeing her again. I don't know. I thought that was a stupid, loose plot line. And I think it was pretty unnecessary. Like, at that point, get rid of his mom. Like, he might as well just be a slave kid that doesn't have parents, I mean, that's just me, though.
Jesus Christ reference in.
Exactly. And that's what it seems like. In regards to the midichlorian thing, I think it's cool to see that, but the fact that they don't reference it in any other Star Wars canon film, I think it was pretty stupid.
They brought it back in Mandalorian season 2.
Really?
Yeah, because when they're talking about Grogu, they're like, "This is the highest midichlorian count we've seen," or like, "This is a very high midichlorian count," or something like that.
Wow, I didn't know that. Well, maybe Grogu is the true chosen one, and there will be a 10, 11, 12. But I mean, that pretty much. All in all, I think that kind of wraps up my thoughts on the second act. But I mean, oh gosh, I forgot about the pod racing scene. Dude, okay. The pod racing scene for me, I can't believe I almost forgot about this. It is like, honestly, one of the best scenes in all of Star Wars for me. At no point for me, and correct me if I'm wrong, like remind me here, but I don't think there's any other point in Star Wars where there's more suspense than the pod racing scene. Like, I mean, in the back of your mind, in the back of your mind, Anakin's gonna win. He has to, right? Not necessarily. There could have been another scene where, Qui-Gon's just like, yeah, I'm taking him anyway. But he wins.
I could name like 5 scenes
all,
just for...
all of the odds are against him. Everything is against him. I think the pod racing scene is one of the best. And can we talk about the fact that for 1998, 99, the visuals look amazing. They could pass for today. They could pass for a movie today.
For that scene, yes. For some of the later scenes, I don't think so. But
we'll get into that.
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember. I totally forgot what I was gonna say. I totally blanked. No, I was gonna say something. I was gonna say, bro, there's like 5 scenes just in episode 3 that are better than Okay. I was gonna say that's quite the claim that's one of the most suspenseful scenes in the whole series.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Revenge of the Sith is a whole nother ball game, but we'll make that a main topic.
Yeah, we'll get to that one day. But I guess Andrew, you already kind of gave your 2 cents. Okay, cool. So yeah, let's keep it going from there. Okay, so Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan escort Padme to Coruscant so that she can plead her people's case to Valorum in the Galactic Senate. Qui-Gon asks the Jedi Council for permission to train Anakin as a Jedi, but the Council refuses, concerned that Anakin is vulnerable to the dark side of the Force. Holy shit. Undaunted, Qui-Gon vows to take up Anakin as his new apprentice. Meanwhile, Naboo Senator Palpatine persuades Amidala to go for a vote of no confidence in Valorum to elect a more capable leader and to resolve the crisis. Though she is successful in pushing for the vote, Amidala grows frustrated with the corruption in the Senate and decides to return to Naboo. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are ordered by the Jedi Council to accompany the Queen and investigate the return of the Sith, whom they had believed to be extinct for more than a millennium. This is kind of just... This section is really more of like a interlude, honestly, to the final act of this film. I feel like just kind of setting up all the players and setting everything up story wise for the finale. I think that the one thing I wanted to say about this section was and honestly for this entire trilogy, that the Jedi Council just feels like they're run, or just they just feel like the biggest dickheads, but they're also right. So it's kind of because it's you want him to be on the Jedi Council, but it's you also know that they're right, and you want Qui-Gon to be right, but he's honestly in the wrong in this situation. But that's all I really wanted to add to this section. I think we could keep moving on. So let's go ahead and talk about the final third of this film, the final act. On Naboo, Padme reveals herself as a queen before the Gungans to gain their trust and persuades them to help against the Trade Federation. Jar Jar is promoted to general and joins his tribe in a battle against the droid army. While Padme leads the search for Gunray and Theed, Anakin is told by Qui-Gon to hide in a starfighter alongside R2 in the hangar, but accidentally triggers its autopilot and flies into space, where he takes part in the battle against the Federation droid control ship, inadvertently causing its destruction from within, which deactivates the droid army. Maul, who has been dispatched by Darth Sidious to capture Amidala, engages Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan in a lightsaber duel. He mortally wounds Qui-Gon, but is cut in half by Obi-Wan, and his half remains fall down a shaft. Qui-Gon asks Obi-Wan to train Anakin before dying in his arms. So yeah, this is the final act of the film. Just gonna go ahead and give my thoughts on it. I think this whole finale can kind of be split into 3 things going on. It's the lightsaber battle between Darth Maul, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and then the space battle that Anakin is in, and then what's also happening outside in the city. And I think all of these have such varying degrees of, quality. I think the entire thing with Anakin just accidentally going into space and just completely by accident destroying an entire fleet of freaking Sith like ships, like completely by accident. He just does this. And what does he do? He goes,
It's
yippee!
autopilot.
Yeah, yippee! And then the stuff going. So I think that stuff is absolutely dog shit, dog water, like dumb, just stupid, like terrible. And then, but I think that the stuff going on in the city is okay. I love, so it's kind of middle of the line. Honestly, I don't really have that much to say about it. But then, holy shit, this final battle is like
Duel of the Fates.
Yeah, Duel of the Fates, like one of the best like soundtracks, original sound or scores for any scene, any moment in a film. Honestly, iconic. The lightsaber battle is potentially the best fight in the entire series. Like completely, like this fight is like batshit crazy. It's so epic. It's it's honestly it's worth it's you know watching this movie at the end of the day, when I get to the end of this film, I'm gonna be able to see this like S tier lightsaber fight, like, and that and it makes getting through everything else okay for me because this final fight is badass and the soundtrack is amazing, and I think Qui-Gon goes out like a bitch a little, but whatever. But I think that whole final scene with like Obi-Wan hanging, from that endless chasm, and Darth Maul there, and then he like flips over him and cuts him in half. Like, I think that's an iconic scene. That whole like scene where they're all in that hallway with the red lasers that are like stopping them from trespassing. That's like iconic imagery to me. And honestly, I love this final fight. I love this part of the final fight. I think the stuff in the city is okay, and I think the stuff with Anakin flying around, going yippee, shooting shit is fucking terrible. But so kind of a mixed bag of finale. Oh, and also terrible stuff with Jar Jar. Two of the four things going on in this final plot line, or this final third of the film, the characters are succeeding by like complete accident and coincidence. When Jar Jar is the general of this army, is like leading his troops, he's like tripping and like flailing his arms around and like accidentally destroying ships. Like it's just like it's just like just completely accidental, completely, it's like borderline slapstick comedy. So I think two really bad, objectively bad aspects of the finale, one okay aspect and one amazing aspect. So it's totally super mixed bag of an ending to me. But John, go ahead, take it off.
Okay. Let me clear my throat. So I would say that I disagree with the Anakin thing. I think that just comes down to bad dialogue, bad writing with the dialogue. I think that scene, honestly, you could chalk it up to him having crazy force abilities,
Fair,
you don't have to look at it at an autopilot perspective and be like, oh, this was a complete accident, because he's so strong with the force. This dude turns into Darth Vader. For me, the Anakin stuff is believable. But I agree that the Jar Jar stuff is definitely all by complete accident. But I mean, even with the Jar Jar stuff, where they're battling all the droids, there's a sense of, hopelessness there. Like, they were defeated. And then, Anakin comes in, I argue, with his force abilities, and he busts up the whole scene, and he literally like crushes the entire armada of what is, like, I guess, the Sith armada at that time. He does it all on his own, and that's what saves Jar Jar. So for me, I feel like that stuff is a little more believable. And maybe that's just me, trying to justify Star Wars, but because I have a deep love for Star Wars. But I mean, I think that the Duel of the Fates obviously is amazing. It's an amazing battle, one of the best in Star Wars. I would argue I mean, it's obviously up there with Obi-Wan versus Anakin and Revenge of the Sith. I think it's debatably better than that, even. But the third act of the film is amazing. The music throughout, even the music at the very end in the celebration, underrated. Da, 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 da. That is underrated as hell. I love it. I love it. And I love Duel of the Fates. And I honestly love the third act of the film. I think it makes the entire movie. But what did you think, Andrew?
So on this third act, I agree with Arsenal. I think the whole thing with Anakin accidentally like winning the entire space battle just because he's like, oh, I don't know what button to press, and he just happens to press the one that just blows up the entire ship, and even all the like all the pilots like flying around in starships like, who did that? Like it's blowing up from the inside. Like it just doesn't make any sense. It shows very bad writing. And I think it's kind of like when in episode
The Force,
9,
bro.
well, okay, yeah, you can make that assumption.
That's like an excuse for everything. Then.
No, yeah,
it's the Force.
20,000 plus metachlorians.
Okay, but listen, I think it's kind of like in episode 9 when there's just when they didn't like write in an explanation for Palpatine coming back, and Oscar Isaac's character is just like, somehow Palpatine returned, and he like acts like he doesn't even know. Like nobody knows, even the people in the movie don't know how he comes back. They're just like, somehow, he's back. They don't even explain it. It seems like it's just lazy writing. Like they had an idea and they just didn't know how to get from point A to point B. So they're just like, oh, he just accidentally pressed the trigger and blew up the entire, starship. It's really dumb. But then on the flip side, you have, like you were saying, Arso, there's like the like 4 main like storylines going on. Anakin the starship, you have the Duel of the Fates, you have the them trying to get out of the castle, and then you have the Jar Jar's like the fight on I don't know what it's called, but it's just like a grassy knoll. And
the special effects look terrible during that.
Yeah, the special effects do look terrible, even with like all the all the changes they did. All the changes they did going into like the Blu-ray, because I know like the first 3 movies they've edited a ton, getting up to this point where it's like streaming on Disney Plus, but like
are aged like milk.
yeah, for real. But then I think there is like a glimmer of good story writing when I noticed like in the one point they show all 4 sections and all 4 of them like come crashing down at once. Like Jar Jar, tries to jump with the commander and they like crash, and then all of a sudden they're like they're all captured, and then all the people running through the castle like Padme and all of them get like caught by all the droids, and then Qui-Gon gets stabbed, and then Anakin is like his ship's not working. So you have like all 4 storylines come to this one point where like all hope is lost for all 4 of them. And then each like sequentially just like they figure out how to get out of that situation, they end up winning. So I think that is kind of a cool like setup, how all 4 of the storylines like come together, all fail at the same time, and then make it out immediately after, like all in sequence. I think that's cool. But I mean, it doesn't really make up for the rest of the movie. The rest of the movie is written so terribly. It's just very hard to like, yeah, I mean, now that I've seen it, like after seeing all the sequel movies, I think it's like, top 6. Just because the sequels are so bad because Disney botched them so hard. But I mean, it's just not good. And it's just like kind of a shame that, the saga came back after, the Return of the Jedi. It just like it came back and like with such hype, and the writing just like completely demolishes the movie and makes it not a good product. That's pretty much the end of my whole rant on the end of the movie. But Parker, what do you think of the end of the movie?
Yeah, so there's kind of 2 sides of the spectrum with the third act of the movie, like you guys were talking about. Like when Anakin just accidentally presses the button and makes the ship blow up from the inside, it's just like that could have been written a million times better than what it was. Because like John even talked about, like this guy becomes Darth fucking Vader, dude. Like, come on, he can have some other way of taking care of business, you know. But otherwise, everything in the early part of the third act was very meh, like you guys were saying. But what redeems it for me is the most epic battle of that trilogy, in my opinion. Of the prequel trilogy, this is the best lightsaber duel that you'll see. And that even beats the one from Revenge of the Sith. Just the Duel of the Fates music is iconic. You just get your blood boiling every time, dude. I'm telling you. One of the best scenes in any Star Wars movie ever. So that really helped redeem that third act for me and make it not so unbearable to watch. It actually gave me like somewhat of a positive kind of feeling coming out of the movie. Even the music they play during the ceremony, like you guys were even saying, is really good too. So overall, the third act is honestly very meh, but there are scenes that really help redeem it. You guys pretty much touched on everything I was going to talk about. It's like you guys went so far into detail. I don't know what else I could add, to be honest, but I think we can move on.
Yeah. And then just kind of like the final thing the movie ends off on is, you know, they're having Qui-Gon's funeral, the celebration, yada, yada. And then they just kind of establish the you know, the quote unquote rule of two, that there's a master and there's an apprentice. Which one did we defeat? Which I think is like honestly a really good way to end the movie out on. Because I think that's super, like that whole there's always a master, there's always an apprentice. Like that line I thought was super cool. And then it kind of cutting over to Palpatine, which was nice little alluding to what's going to happen. But from there, I guess I just want to ask, you know, kind of as a wrap up, what everyone's favorite scenes are, what their least favorite scenes are, as well as, you know, what their favorite and their least favorite characters are. So I'll go ahead and start off. My favorite scenes, obviously Duel Fates. Like that's, I think all of us are gonna say Duel Fates, but I could be wrong. But I also think, honestly, a lot of people hate it, but I do like the pod racing scene. I think it's really enjoyable. Least favorite scenes, every scene with Jar Jar Binks. And also, honestly, no, that's a little, honestly.
No, I agree with that 100%. That's my least favorite too. Is anything
stole the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, but also just the entire first third of this movie is just shit, in my opinion. Favorite characters, totally in my book, like in this movie at least, Qui-Gon Jinn. I love Qui-Gon Jinn, and I wish that there was more. Like maybe they could explore him in like some future TV show. I think Qui-Gon Jinn is awesome. I love Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon. But honorable mention to Darth Maul, because he's also badass. I think Obi-Wan's kind of lame in this film, honestly. And then least favorite character. This is a tough one. I wonder what it's gonna be.
Is it?
Yeah. Of course, everyone knows Jar Jar Binks. Jar Jar Binks sucks. And also, he's a pedophile. He's a pedophile. There's totally a scene.
Cancel Jar Jar.
Jar Jar.
There's totally a scene where he's like talking about Padme and says, "She pretty hot." and
she pretty hot.
I noticed this for the first time when I was rewatching all the movies in anticipation for episode 7. And I remember hearing that the first time and I was like, what the hell? Like George Lucas wrote that into the script. But yeah, those are my least favorite scenes and least favorite characters. What about you, John?
Yeah, I think my favorite scene, actually, obviously Duel of the Fates is up there. But I think the pod racing scene is my favorite. Like I mentioned, it's one of my favorite scenes in Star Wars because it's like one of the only scenes where you aren't truly sure where it's going to go and who's going to win on your first viewing. I mean, like I said, you know, Qui-Gon probably could have taken Anakin and trained him regardless. and he doesn't even train him. It's Obi-Wan, but I think that could have gone a number of ways, but I think the pod racing scene is one of my favorite. My least favorite is probably the entire first third of the film. I agree. All of the political stuff at the beginning, although I think it's needed, I guess, to set up the story. I just think the dialogue is really badly written. Favorite characters, Qui-Gon. Just like you, Ursula, I love Qui-Gon, and I wish that they would do more with him. And it sucks the way he went out, but I think it was for the, Force Ghost, factor. I think he was one of the first Force Ghosts, if we're talking about Star Wars canon. So I think it had something to do with that. Like maybe he was preparing himself. But Qui-Gon is definitely my favorite character. Least favorite, not Jar Jar, surprisingly, but Anakin's mom. She doesn't add shit. She adds nothing to the plot. She shouldn't be in the movie. She doesn't say anything. And along with one of the generals for Amidala, one of her generals is the most negative dude. All he says is negative throughout the movie. He is never positive. He's like, all hope is lost. We're screwed all the time. He's also one of my least favorite characters. But what about you, Andrew?
Yeah, so my favorite scene it's pretty stereotypical, I guess, but the final lightsaber duel with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon and then Darth Maul. I think it's just like Parker said, it's one of the best in the prequel trilogy. I don't think personally it's the best. I think the Anakin Obi-Wan one in episode 3 is the best, just because of how intense it is. My least favorite scene, like you guys, probably the first third of the movie. But if I had to pick one part out of that first third, it's basically anytime Jar Jar Binks is on screen in the first third, just being a complete dumbass. There's a lot. I think the one, actually, if I had to pick a least favorite scene, it'd be when they're eating in Anakin in his mom's house, and Jar Jar's like picking up food with his tongue, and Qui-Gon just like grabs his tongue. It's just like the cringiest shit ever. It's just so stupid. It's like, why did that have to be in the movie? Like, you just trying to show how much of an idiot Jar Jar Binks is? Well, like, thanks. We already can tell from the first like 5 minutes he's on screen that he's a dumbass. And then favorite character, honestly, my favorite character is Darth Maul, because I think when I first saw him like pull out that lightsaber and it goes into 2 parts, I thought that was like the most insane thing ever. Like at the time, I was like, holy cow, that's freaking epic. Like that's insane that he has a double-sided lightsaber. Like he has
I always wanted
any
the toy.
Weaknesses. Yeah, same. He has like no weaknesses with that thing until Obi-Wan cuts off one half of it, and then that's when he gets defeated, which is like it's like a cheat code almost. But least favorite character, oh boy. I think
tough choice.
Honestly,
there's so many bad ones.
Those like what group are those 2 like alien dudes with at the start of the movie?
Oh,
like,
the
they're so bad.
Yeah, they're so bad. And George Lucas made them have like this Japanese accent, and it does not fit at all with their characters, and it's so shitty. And they're just like some of the worst characters ever. Like
you have no hope.
And then they come around in like the full arc in episode 3, and they're like, oh, Darth Sidious said we were safe, and then Anakin just like unceremoniously just like slays them. Like it's just the characters start out terrible. Their whole arc in the Star Wars series is terrible, and I think they're like honestly the worst characters they've ever put in the movie, because even when they get into a point where they can like beat like they're not called the Resistance. What are they called?
Republic.
Yeah, the Republic.
Yeah,
when they
Republic
capture like
point.
Amidala or Padme and like all the other like people she's running around with, they're like like they just see like the other who's the other one that like runs up? Is that Queen Amidala or something? Or I'm mixing up names. Anyways, when like the other group comes up, they like have everybody captured and they're like, it's a decoy, that's the real one. And then they just like give up and just get completely demolished and like arrested. It's just so stupid. They're some of the worst characters they've ever put in the series, and I don't think they get enough hate. Like honestly, they're terrible. They're just like, whoa, Darth Sidious. Now there's two of them. Like that's like the only iconic line they have in the entire movies, and it adds like zero. Like yeah, dude. We just saw Emperor Palpatine and Darth Maul. Like yeah, there's two of them. Thanks for helping us count out how many characters just showed up on screen. Like they're just absolutely worthless characters. I could go on and on about how terrible they are, but those are my least favorite characters for sure. They're even worse than Jar Jar, and that's a very high bar to clear.
Parker, what about you?
So my favorite scene of the movie, I know this is basic, but it's got to be Duel of the Fates, man. You can't argue with that. By far the best scene in the movie, and just has you at the edge of your seat the whole time, like what's gonna happen here. But my least favorite scene, honestly, has to be like you guys are saying, like I was gonna say the water traveling scene, like at the very beginning of the movie with Jar Jar and everybody there. It's just at that point of the movie, I just remember at that exact point, I was just like about to fall asleep because I'm like, man, I'm just not. There's no plot line right now that's intriguing me at all. Like, I just it's like the start of every Star Wars movie, like where there's just a bunch of dialogue that really doesn't change the outcome of anything, and more so just leaves you hanging a little bit. So that's my least favorite scene there. My favorite character is definitely Qui-Gon because Liam Neeson is anything that Liam Neeson is in, like as an actor wise, like he's just always kills it. Like I love that guy so much. I just hate to see him put in this movie because he actually had a bad acting performance for once. But I just love Qui-Gon because he shows a lot of, like, one of the few characters in the movie that shows emotion and actually communicates effectively. So that is definitely my favorite character. My least favorite character, it's Jar Jar Binks, man. It's just, he pissed me off throughout the whole movie just by being stupid, dude. Just adding nothing, in my opinion, to like any plot line or anything cool.
He was they cut him out in the second film, or like he dies in the third. Yeah, he's pointless.
It's just really a waste of time to have him on screen, man. Like, just get him off. He's just embarrassing. Like, shows some characters that actually amount to shit. But that was definitely my least favorite by far. There are good things to come out of the movie, but there's definitely a lot of bad.
So kind of putting a final little bow on this whole thing, and I'm going to just put these two things together. I want everyone to go ahead and give their final thoughts, their final rating. Also kind of tell us, how you think the movie has aged or how its reputation has changed. Maybe have you come to enjoy it more? Have you come to enjoy it less? Appreciate it more, appreciate it less, whatever it may be. So I'll start off. I think this movie sucks for the most part. I think it's, like I said from the beginning, it teeters between being passable and just sucking ass, or passable being like okay and like sucking. But I don't know if it's, and I used to think this movie was absolute shit that was unredeemable, but I think I've come to appreciate it a little bit more, especially since the whole sequel trilogy has completed. It used to definitely be my least favorite. Now I'm not totally sure. I think there's a few movies that are in the running for that role, for that title of worst Star Wars movie. But I think I do enjoy it a little bit more than when I first rewatched it a few years back. I think Like the pod racing scene is really good. I think that obviously the fight at the end is really good, but the first third of the movie is terrible, and a lot of the movie drags, and a lot of the characters are terrible. We all had different worst characters, should say something. But yeah,
It's hilarious.
Yeah, and I think the only reason anyone still talks about this movie is because it's Star Wars. Because if you took the Star Wars title away, this movie would be ass. But so I'm gonna go ahead and give this movie final score of, oh man, I'm dashing between two different scores. I'm gonna give this a 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10. So
wow.
What about you, Andrew? Go ahead and give us your final encompassing thoughts and rating and your perception of the film over time.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I saw it before I saw episode 2 for the first time. So it was it left a pretty bad taste in my mouth. But however, once I watched episode 2, I appreciate this film a lot more, unfortunately, for episode 2. I think the writing is just so bad, and it's like you go on this, like, I don't even know how many years in actual years it was between episode 6 and episode 1.
16.
But yeah, okay, so 16. So you have 16 years to develop this, like, universe busting, like, banger, and they just fall short. And I think it's a victim of, like, late 90s, early 2000s, like, writing and directing and, like, humor. And I think it's like the humor in it has aged, like, all right, just because at the time it was like it just, like, I don't know if they put in Jar Jar for, like, comedic relief, but he fell flat on his face trying to provide any sense of comedic relief. And
have you guys all seen that thing about like that scene, that documentary clip of George Lucas where he, like, realizes the movie is shit? He's like, I can't rearrange this scene with that scene, and I can't take that scene out, or I can't do this scene because they're all somehow connected just a little with each other. And it's just, and then he just, like, goes quiet and just stares at the screen.
Yeah,
I don't remember that.
You have to look it up. You have to look it up.
It makes sense because it's like there's just, like, so many parts of the movie that, like, if I hate to say it, but I think if Disney made episode 1, I think they would have cut out all the shit parts. And I don't think that's a compliment to either party. I just think there's, like, so many parts of that movie that are, like, so awful. Like, and the writing is just so bad, and it's such, like, a bad way to return, like, to jumpstart a new part of the saga. Like, it just like started it off poor, and then everybody had a bad taste going into episode 2, and that wasn't any better. And then, episode 3 kind of saved it because it was like, everybody thought that was going to be the last one ever. I mean, I kind of wish episode 3 would have been the last one ever. But
would have been the perfect conclusion.
Yeah, but I mean, I think, like, in terms of the movie itself, the writing is bad. The acting is, like, just a victim of the poor writing. The directing's fine. The special effects, like John said, like, would be pretty good even, like, by today's standards on maybe, like, a lower budget movie, I think, personally, but I think they still hold up. And I think the soundtrack is, like, an all-time classic. I think John Williams did a perfect job on it, even though the movie itself was kind of stinky. But in conclusion, I think I would give this movie a 6 out of 10. I think the only reason it's not lower is just because it has a Star Wars appeal, and now seeing, like, all 6 of the original and prequels, I think it ties. It gets the story going enough to, like, connect everything and make sense of everything that comes after it. But I think as a movie itself, it kind of falls short on, like, being funny or even good for that matter. So I give it a 6 out of 10. John, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I honestly think that over time the movie aged well. Like we've mentioned, I think the special effects are really good for the time. And I think they could even pass for a movie today. I've seen movies with worse special effects. Like Black the scene Panther. In the maybe. But I mean, the scene in the water, it's a bigger fish. Like, that's insane to pull off for the 90s. I was really impressed when I saw that in my latest viewing. So I actually think it aged pretty well. Like I've said before, I think the dialogue is really bad. And I think that that's probably the biggest Achilles heel of the film, is that the dialogue is shit. I honestly think that the actors did pretty good with what they were given. George Lucas didn't do the best job of directing the film, but I like the ideas behind it. I just think that it could have been executed a lot better. And I mean, we've all said a lot about the film, so I'm not gonna, go back on too much and repeat myself. But to kind of put a bow on it for me, I think with some of the really memorable scenes that this movie brings out, and some of the backstory that we get, despite the bad dialogue and some of the bad writing, I think that I would give The Phantom Menace Episode 1 a 7.5. I actually consider it to be a good film. A 7.5 for me is considered good. Even a 7 is considered good, so it's a little above that for me. I would say it's a little more middle of the road Star Wars films for me, and I know that I'm the odd man out with that, but I also may have a little bit of nostalgia with the Phantom Menace. It's the first Star Wars film I've seen, but I really enjoyed it overall. So 7.5 for me. What about you, Parker?
So, in my opinion, like the movie aged pretty well, to be honest with you. Like the special effects were very good. They were very ahead of their time when it came to that. But I'm not necessarily the humor. Like I don't think the humor aged very well. I don't think people like if somebody that was like 15 or 16 years old just popped in Phantom Menace for the first time, like some of the jokes just fly over their head, man. But otherwise, like this movie was very meh for me. Um, like my final rating is going to be a 5.5 out of 10 for this movie, which is pretty much a fail. If it weren't for a couple of scenes in this movie, this would be like a 2 or a 3. Like it's that dog shit at certain points to me. So there are a few scenes that honestly saved this movie from being absolute dog shit. So I'm just glad that they kind of redeemed themselves in the last part of the movie and gave you a scene to like remember.
Duel of the Fates.
Yeah, but otherwise there is just not much substance there. I think you guys touched on a lot, and I don't want to repeat too much.
Okay, and so putting all of our scores together, that puts us at a flat 6 out of 10 for Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Thank you, everyone.
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's pretty good. And probably what you would find I think the Rotten Tomatoes score is like 53, so not too far off from that. But thank you, everyone, for listening to this nice little episode of ControllerCast. Keep supporting, keep sharing if you enjoy it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel because we do want to start putting out some more content out on there specifically for YouTube. So, that'll be a good avenue to check out. Subscribe to our socials, subscribe to anything, any of your podcast platforms that you listen to this on. That's all for me. So I'm signing off. Do you guys want to say anything else?
Make sure to follow our Twitter and our Instagram because I do stream every now and then on our ControllerCast Twitch. So I will share on Twitter and Instagram when we do.
Subscribe on everything, share if you enjoy, and definitely rate us on whatever platform that you listen to us on.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say. Thanks, guys.
We'll see you for episode 10.
Yep.
Adios.
Peace out.
Peace.
Signing off.